Welcome, friends, to this informal local meeting which we have once a month. And I see the definition of local is changing. Well, it is just like saying the definition of here is changing. What is here? A singer in Pakistan sang a song which translated into English would mean, if it is not here, it's nowhere. And if you can't find something here, you will find it nowhere. So here is very important. The location of where we are is the most important location of all. Right now where we are, as conscious entities, not the covers upon us, not where our body is, not where we sit on this planet, not where we sit in this house or this building, but where as a conscious unit we are existing now is the only place to be in. And that's the only place we're always in. And that's the only place where we can find everything we want to find. So I agree. If you cannot find it here, you will not find it anywhere. Where is this here? It can be discovered by very simple introspection, by very simple looking into your own self. If you say, I am not the body, this is a cover upon myself, a temporary cover. In terms of cosmic time of billions of years, we ascribe to the creation of this universe around us. What is the life of this physical body? It's very, very short. It's like a wave arising on the bank on the side of a river, on the shores of an ocean. A little wave comes up, a little bubble comes up. We see the light shining in the bubble, making rainbow colors in the bubble. Looks so beautiful, and suddenly disappears. In terms of cosmic time, our life is as short as that. And therefore, to consider that this body, physical body, which has such a short life in terms of total cosmic time, could be anything more important than just a temporary cover, would be to think totally off the point. The point is, we are not the body. It's a cover upon ourselves. We are wearing it. We are wearing a physical body just like we wear our clothes. If I was to start believing that my jacket I am wearing is me, imagine how much trouble I'll be in. I'll be going into dry cleaners, be going through the rough and tidy. I'll be going through cycles of laundry machines. I'll be crying all the time. And that's what happens to us. When we start identifying ourselves with the physical body, we go through the wringer. And that's why it's good to know that what makes this body alive, what makes this body conscious, is our reality and not the body itself. There is so much inside this body. It's unbelievable. Even the anatomy of the physical body reveals how well packed all the systems of life are, how these systems are operating, the physical systems of life are operating. That there is a nervous system, little thin wires, physical wires, thin nerves moving around, several thousand miles long in a single body. There are small little boats floating around, yellow-colored boats, floating around in plasma, and we call that blood. And there are trillions of them. There are living things, living like us, called bacteria. Each bacterium has a life. It's a living thing. It is born, grows, and dies, like us. And we have trillions of them in our body, so much so that they are so small But collectively, the average weight of the bacteria in our body is 3 pounds or more than the other vital organs put together. The liver, the stomach, and the heart put together don't weigh as much as the bacteria in our body. It has been called the largest organ of the body. And they are all working inside this world, which they think is their only world. And they float around, they go all over, they travel in the bloodstream, they take charge of the boats. The little boats are hemoglobin boats, yellow. They look red to us when the blood flows out because there are too many of them. If you look at the structure of the body, it's amazing. And then that there should be a central headquarters of the nervous system operating from the top of the body, right from the center, through a very small part of the body. They say all the hormones in the body, which control most of our activities, including emotions, including the way we think. Those hormones are all being controlled by one little body, or maybe two, sitting right in the center of the head, called the pituitary body and the pineal gland. They are so small. It's unbelievable that those little things inside our head are controlling the whole of our life in the physical plane and are controlling all the activities of this body. This is only looking at it at the physical body, looking from the physical aspect of the body. Go a little beyond it. Go a little beyond. Take the concept of energy in the body. We experience energy. Where does energy come from? What constitutes energy? Well, we have so many kinds of explanations. How we get energy, how the sugar is produced and assimilated in the blood, and that goes to the muscles and is burnt there to create energy. That our muscles wouldn't work, our heart wouldn't beat, nothing would beat if this fuel doesn't reach these places. And yet, the energy is so strange. When you see the emotional aspect of energy, it can create those emotions which have nothing to do with sugar or with anything else. Where does that happen? Then we have to move into something beyond ordinary physiology and ordinary anatomy. When you go to that level, then you find that the different organs of the body are so placed, one above the other, that starting from the bottom, from the rectum, going to the genitals, going to the navel and all the digestive systems like stomach and liver and so on, going to the heart that beats and provides the blood, going to the throat with this little small organ contains more effect on human body than anything else, and going to the eyes with which we see and from where we think and going back into the cortex of the brain. How are these placed one above the other? And all performing a very specific function relatable to energy in the body. People who have studied that part, the energy circuits of the body, they find that these different levels, 6 of them can be identified as levels of centers generating different energies and moving in circuits, keeping the whole body and through the sensory system of the body alive and making us be aware of the whole world. What a miraculous thing to have a human body like that. And then, on top of that, what constitutes sense perceptions? We think it's the organs of senses that are creating the perception. We think the eyes see, that the physical eyes are what see. If the physical eyes were the only one that could see, we could never have a dream. If the physical eyes were the only one that could see, we could never have an imagination. We can see an imagination. Where is that taking place? If you see something in your head, an imaginary thing, what eyes are seeing that? They are not these physical eyes. Moreover, if you knock out a person through anesthesia for a surgical procedure, the person cannot see with the eyes are open. And yet, that person can have so many visual experiences during anesthesia. Some people who have had surgeries tell me some of the most poignant, significant experiences, visual experiences took place while they were under anesthesia. And the eyes were not looking. What was looking at them? Same thing about other senses. If we could only hear with the ears, we couldn't hear any internal sounds at all. They say that if you just sit quietly in a place, you start hearing inner sounds. Where do they come from? Who hears them? And those who have heard an inner sound in meditation, they say they can hear such a loud sound, so overwhelming sound, and yet outside, if you drop a pin, you can also hear the drop of the pin. Which ear is hearing that loud sound and which ear is hearing the drop of the pin? They're two different functions. When you go to examine the sensory perceptions, you discover there's a whole implant inside this body functioning to provide the sensory perceptions. And we might as well call it that there's an overlap of a different sensory body in us. That we have an inner body which is providing through life, through consciousness, all sense perceptions. If we are not alive, of course, nothing works. But if we are alive, they both work. The sensory systems work inside us and the physical body works outside. But this is more than merely what we can see in the physical body. Definitely it is more than what the physical organs can do. Moreover, even if you were to examine a sensory perception, let us take the most simple one, the perception of sight, vision. How do we see things? We see things which are in front of us. We can't see things which are behind us, unfortunately. Why? Because the physical eyes are in front. So we give great credit to the physical eyes. If there were other eyes, then we could say we can see things behind us we can't see. So we only see what is in front of these eyes. And how do these eyes see? They see according to the laws of physics and the laws of anatomy. We see when light is reflected upon things which absorbs all colors except those it cannot, which is what we see. I see somebody wearing a blue dress at the back. How do I see a blue dress? This light, which is a combination of all the colors of the spectrum of the rainbow, is falling upon that dress. The dress is able to absorb all the other colors except blue. The blue is being reflected. The truth is that the blue shirt one is wearing is not blue. It cannot take blue. It is repelling blue. And so we say it's a blue shirt. First of all, this itself is remarkable that what is missing is what we see. What cannot be absorbed as a substance is what we see. Okay. Then what happens? Then the light falling upon an object, getting absorbed except the colors that cannot be absorbed and are reflected back in near parallel lines, and they come into our eyeballs. There the refraction takes place. That means the light rays are bent to create the image. First, there is the aqueous liquid. It functions like a little lens. It bends the light a little bit. Then there is the lens and the vitreous humor. They bend it enough to create an identical image of what is being seen outside, and the image is upside down on the back of our eye, which we call the retina. It is still a puzzle for anatomy and for science. Why, when the image in the back of our head is upside down, why we do see straight? We should see upside down everything. But when things are straight here, if you look at the image behind through a glass, which the ophthalmologist can use, he sees the image upside down on the retina. How come if the image in the retina is upside down, we see it straight? Well, that's not a big puzzle at all. The point is, if there's an image on the retina, then what is the retina? It is merely an extension of the optic nerve. A nerve that originates in the brain and travels down and comes into the back of the eye and spreads out into rods and cones which can distinguish between shapes and colors. And as it spreads out, the optic nerve, the image falls upon that nerve ending. And therefore it creates a frequency, a kind of a vibration in that nerve, and the vibration then travels to the brain. Not the image. Image doesn't travel. It is a frequency that is created on the retina that travels to the brain. And once it has reached the brain, if you are conscious, you see the blue shirt. If you are not conscious, the whole of these steps can take place. And you can have the image, you can have the eyes open, you can have an image on the retina. Retina can convey the frequency to the brain, and the brain optic nerve ends at the optic center, and you should be able to see, but you don't, because you are not conscious. If you are conscious, you see it. Now think of it this way. Supposing the optic nerve, with its ending, has the power to create images upon the retina. Let's imagine that the human body has this great capability because of all life it has and so many energy centers and so much other stuff. It might even have the capacity to create images on the retina. If an image is created of a blue shirt on the retina, we will see the blue shirt exactly the same way as we are seeing now. How can we be sure? Is the blue shirt outside that created the image, or the image created the blue shirt? No, let's go further. Supposing there is no image, but it's the optic center in the brain that has the capacity to create the same frequency that's created by the rays of light coming in, and it creates that frequency on its own because of the power of the brain. We'd see the blue shirt exactly as we see now, with no difference. And supposing, go further, if consciousness has the power to create the same thing, what will happen? If consciousness has the power to create this, it will create the same frequency in the brain and cause the same message to be sent downstream to the optic nerve, and it will create the same image on the retina, and you will see the blue shirt exactly as you see now. Question is, which is the causal direction? Is it the blue shirt traveling inside and making us see it? Or is seeing the blue shirt that's creating us to feel there's a blue shirt outside? When you try to examine this, you try to see, is there a movement in terms of time that you can move in time and say, the shirt came outside first, then it came on the retina, and then it came on the optic nerve, then it came to consciousness, therefore we know the cause was outside and the effect was inside. But when we have measured these things, it's the most amazing result that there was no gap at all between the blue shirt outside and the seeing of the shirt inside. Not even a billionth part of a nanosecond. There was no traveling time at all. We saw the shirt when it was there in the consciousness. Therefore, this question has been left open all this time, whether the cause is in our consciousness to be able to see things, or things have to be there in order for us to see them. This has been a long-standing debate going on. And the debate still continues. Somebody sent me a little conversation that took place between Einstein in his early days, when he met an Indian philosopher, Rabindranath Tagore. And in that conversation, they talk about it. And Einstein says, I have been trained to think that there have to be things outside before we can see them. And you are saying that if they were not seen by you, they wouldn't exist outside. It's very hard for us scientists to accept it. He says, because you have made an assumption. once you make an erroneous assumption, you will continue to have all the errors in the thinking. Once you begin to believe that there has to be a physical world created outside before you can experience it, you will never be able to come to any conclusion anywhere in any scientific experiment to get away from this assumption. If you are a real scientist, you should be looking for truth and not act on an assumption blindly. Because so many people have brought out this idea that maybe it is consciousness that creates the whole experience. Why don't you examine it scientifically? But the scientists say, how can we examine something that you are talking of that is lying in your subjective head? We want to deal with empirical objective science. Empirical objective science is that which exists outside, can be proven outside. Wow, what a great blunder again. We assume outside must be there, therefore that becomes empirical science. One assumption is leading to the whole definition of what science is. One definition leading to the idea that objectivity means go by this assumption. It's just an assumption. Because both sides have stated their case. A real scientific approach, objective approach really would be examine both. But the scientist, with the definition of empirical science being what is already fitting in with our assumption that things must be real to be experienced, is going on, and therefore, if the very first assumption happens to be wrong, all the conclusions will be wrong thereafter. Therefore, you can't call that objective. Objective is the openness. Openness to examine anything. If there are 2 points of view stated before us, there are 2 possibilities of explanation of experience going on, how sensory experience takes place, examine both. Well, there is one big problem in this. Empirical science, once you start adopting that definition, it must be that reality exists outside of ourselves. Once you start from that premise, everything that you experience within yourself becomes subjective. Well, there were even scientists, empirical scientists, like Dr. Planck, who came up. And he came with a theory that there is an electron, objective electron. Nobody saw it, but they call it objective. An objective electron moves around a neutron to create matter. Hydrogen, the simplest of matter elements, has only one electron moving around the nucleus. Where is it moving? We don't know. Till laser technology enabled us to go to the point where we knew that this is the radius around which that electron moves, and we can throw the laser beam at the width of an electron and touch it in its radius, touch it in the circle in which it is moving. Now imagine if there is one nucleus and one electron is moving. There's only one electron. Is it moving like this? Is it moving like this? In which orbit is it moving? Theoretically, there can be 1,000,000 orbits. You keep on shifting a little, you can have 1,000,000 orbits through which it can move. Which one is it moving on? This is the greatest amazement, that when they touch the right place, anywhere around at the right distance of the orbit, the electron was there. Instantly. But once it was there, it never was found anywhere else. How could an observation by a human being through a microscope determine where the electron will now rest hereafter? But it does. This is science. This is objective science. Einstein, before he died, his last observation was, although I spent so much time on mathematical development of my theories of relativity, general relativity, I spent so much time, I forgot. Look at the last notes, I forgot to consider how an observer can alter everything. He was following up on that theory. that if an observer can alter even the location of an electron, if an observer, by observing the location of an electron, can change the nature of matter, what is the power of the observation then? What's observation then? What is human observation? The matter, he left it to other scientists to discover. Other scientists are still battling with it. They're battling so much. They have had so many problems after this Einsteinian observation that today they have better devices to measure radiation, to measure the kind of energy that exists in this universe. More and more accurate observations in larger and larger area of this universe is revealing that there are many other forces operating, that the measurement of the amount of energy through radiation that exists in this world cannot be explained by the amount of matter that we have. Matter must exist under our basic theories to support that kind of radiation existing in the universe. Therefore, we don't know where it is, but it is there. Let's give it a new name and become scientists. Dark matter. Today they call it dark matter. When they want to balance the energy, dark energy. When they came up with the quantum, because that's what Planck has started, the quantum theory, that you cannot say that the electron is a particle. You can say it's a quanta. It's neither wave nor a particle. It's a wave that can be touched anywhere around the nucleus, but once you touch it, it becomes a particle. The human observation can make it a particle. A great theory. But when they tried to find out how much is the sustained visible universe accounting for in terms of existing total matter, they found we are not more than 17% of the total matter in the universe. And the rest of it, the majority is lying somewhere beyond us and is still there, can be measured through radiation. And dark matter and dark energy account for so many explanations for our equations. When we try to put these equations, scientific equations, into our 4 dimensions, they don't fit in. They can't be explained. And new theoretical concepts are coming up to explain all the existing measurements of radiation and energy. There have to be at least 11 dimensions existing. Only 4 are visible to us, the 7 are invisible. But they are necessary to explain what we can measure today. This is science. I am only saying science is stumbling upon something which has been told by other experiencers who said we are open to examine both. We are open to examine the reality of this universe, and we are open to examine the reality of consciousness which can create a universe. And we have come to the conclusion that do not rely only upon one, look at the other also. Now, when you look at the other, the empirical scientists have a problem because the lab in which they work has been constructed with bricks and mortar, and walls have been made there, and great care has been taken to make the sanitary conditions there good, to see that there is no disturbance in those labs. They can have accurate readings in those labs. The best equipment has been placed there. But to study consciousness, the lab cannot be outside here. You can study behavior outside, but to study the nature of consciousness, you have to go into a lab where consciousness exists, which is inside our head, inside our brains, inside the body. You can't go to a wrong place to study something that exists somewhere else. You can't say, I am going out to look for something outside when it is inside. Now that's where the problem arises. Because the lab for studying consciousness lies within our own body, within our head, within our small brain, within a small area of the small brain, within the little space around the pineal and pituitary gland, right in the center of the brain. It's a very small area. And there all the answers about consciousness can be found. All the counter answers to those who say the material world has to exist, the counter can be found right there in the center of your own head. We all carry this lab naturally with us. A lab not made by us. made by the very creative force that created human beings. The very force that created, through strange process of evolution, a kind of a body in which there was a brain, in which there was a head. In the center of the head there was a space where consciousness was created and placed. In India, I was once working in a government department where we got a very important diplomat from outside. They came to visit us, and he had a car accident. And during car accident, he got into a coma. He was unconscious. For several weeks, he was unconscious. And since he was a very important person, we didn't want him to be hurt like this in our state. So we called for the best psychologists, best surgeons, best brain surgeons from the world. Some came from Vienna, who were the best at that time. Some came from Montreal in Canada. And we got all those. The top surgeon who had done 1,000 surgical operations on the brain, he was looking at that patient and taking scans. And my boss, who was the chief minister of the state, asked him, "Doctor, tell me, what part of the brain makes one conscious?" He said, "Sir, this question is being asked for thousands of years. We don't have the answer. All we know is that if you touch different parts of the cerebrum and cerebellum, if you touch different parts of the brain, it can activate or deactivate different sense perceptions. We also know if you are able to touch with a laser beam this innermost area around the pituitary and pineal glands, a person becomes unconscious. We know that. Therefore, it's an assumption of ours that there is something around in that area which causes consciousness or which deactivates consciousness. But beyond that, we do not know how they operate. We have no idea how a person can become alive and kicking just because something is happening right in the center of the head. But it's a subject worth examining. How many people examine what is inside there? He says he has opened 1,000 heads and seen the physical presence of those organs, seen and pulled them out. In autopsies he has pulled them out, but he can't see where consciousness is sitting there, where life is sitting there. So therefore, if you want to examine living consciousness, if you want to examine consciousness at work, then you must go to that center while you are alive. Otherwise, it's too late. If you want to examine a body when it's dead, you can't find anything. You don't even know. When a person dies suddenly, the eyes are open, can't see, can't move, everything slowly stops. Where had the life gone? What kind of life was it that suddenly all the organs are intact, the pineal gland is intact with no change, the pituitary body is hanging in the center of the brain with no change, the person is dead? What happens? What is life? What is consciousness? It's a subject worth examining. Now the best place to examine is where it lies. At least we know that there is an area within our head, within this body, where consciousness should be studied. And that's why when you come to the other field of study, that means introspection, not studying outside, but studying within yourself. When you go to study within yourself, then you go back to that area and study. How can one, while alive, go back to that area? You don't have to cut your head or something. A Buddhist monk came to the Dalai Lama once, and he had a little interview. And in those days, I was meeting the Dalai Lama regularly because he was under my charge in India. And he wrote a book saying, I met the Dalai Lama, he told me to find the inner center of consciousness. You dig a hole in the top of the head, and then you go down under that, and then you can pull out consciousness from there. The Dalai Lama laughed. He said he never even mentioned this stuff to me. He's putting in a book and quoting me. How can you drill a hole in the head and discover consciousness? There must be better way than that. The real way to study anything, outside or inside, is to apply your attention to it. If I want to find some truth in a book, I can't keep the book in front and look at other things and say I've read the book. I have to open the book, put my attention on what is written there, study it, absorb it. It's my attention on the book that picks up what's in the book. If I don't put my attention, I pick up nothing. Obviously, if we want to study what is inside our head in consciousness or in life, we must put our attention there. Now, one good news is that attention can be moved anywhere you like. You can place your attention on a book, you can place your attention on a thought, you can place your attention in another city right now. Think of that, and the attention goes and picks up that information. Attention can be placed inside and outside. Of course, as it happens, most of our life we have been putting our attention outside. So we are not used to another feature of attention that you can also put your attention inside. If you could put your attention inside, you could also discover what is inside. The best way to study consciousness, the seat of consciousness, which is the center of the head, is to put your attention there. What would happen if you really put your attention there? Well, let's ask those people who put their attention there. There's nothing better than that. Whoever has put their attention inside has said that when you concentrate your attention behind these eyes, the center of the head, at a point where it apparently looks like a third eye, a single eye, you make it a single eye, you see a light so strong, more than the light you can see with these eyes outside. If that eye be single, thy whole body shall be filled with light. It's a quote. There are several quotes from every scripture that I have known of about the existence of so much light inside, which defies the light that we see outside. And yet, all is needed to do that, to see the light, is to put your attention inside. Why can't everybody sitting here just say, okay, let's put our attention inside and see the light? There must be some simple reason why we have made it difficult. The simple reason is we have never done it. We have always used our attention outside. We have not used our attention to go within our own self. That's why the art of putting your attention within yourself is called meditation. It's unfortunate it's called meditation. I don't like this thing that we call it meditation, because meditation goes on into the same kind of voodoo stuff. Meditation puts us in, some kind of religious group, some spirituality group, something else. Whereas I am talking of simple science of discovering life, simple science of discovering the nature of consciousness. I'm not talking any voodoo stuff at all. I'm not talking about spirituality. I'm saying if you want to know what makes you conscious, if you want to know what is consciousness, go where it is. And the easiest way to go where it is through your attention. And attention can be moved there. We have always practiced focusing attention on other things. We have not practiced the withdrawal of attention. That's the only difference. This requires withdrawal of attention, not focusing of attention. Because we are trying to put attention on where we are. We are going to put our attention on the real here. Where we said, if it is not here, it is nowhere. That's where we are putting our attention on. To put your attention on where you are, you can't focus attention, because then you move away from where you're putting the attention. Even if you put your attention closer to yourself, that's not where you are. You are from where you're putting the attention. You're behind. Somebody says, I close my eyes and see myself sitting there. That's not you. You are the one looking at that image. That's behind. We make a big mistake because we know how to put attention on something, but we don't know how to withdraw attention to ourselves, to our own self. This art of withdrawing attention to yourself is the true art of discovering who you are, who you really are, being covered by these bodies, including sense perceptions, including a mind that is thinking, including the physical body. These are all covers. All these three are covers upon ourselves. Pure consciousness can make alive a thinking machine called the mind. Pure consciousness can make alive all the sense perceptions that we have, which we ascribe to these organs. Pure consciousness can make this body alive and kicking and running around. It's pure consciousness that provides life to all these. And all these work in tandem, in cooperation with each other and overlap each other. It does not mean that they exist somewhere else. They all exist within the same framework. They all exist together in a compact thing called physical body. All this is within a small frame called a physical body. If you go into the physical body, you discover the truth. I call it the truth because it removes the assumptions which we have been made so long to call empirical and objective science, that which must lie outside. It removes that. You are able to find out how objective things come out and how subjectivity is something different. You find out it's the nature of consciousness to generate these experiences through different mechanisms that are provided to it in a compact system like a human body. In a human body, while you are alive, you can find out all this within yourself. I think this is the greatest miracle that I can ever imagine even. Not only see, but imagine. The greatest miracle that all discovery of all creation can be found right within your own head. And each one is carrying that equipment to see the whole creation within oneself all the time. We want to run to other places to find the truth. We don't realize that the truth is being carried by us in our heads all the time. That we want to go to a temple, we want to go to a church, a synagogue, we want to go to holy places in order to find the truth. And we carry the real temple, the real church, the real synagogue, the real place of real true consciousness and life right on our head, on the body. And on top of that, because of our own definitions, of our own religions, of our own divisiveness, of our own division of humanity into different religions and societies, we kill each other. We hate each other. How can we do that? While we're doing this, we are hating the very things in which the whole truth is lying. We are hating a human body in which the entire secret of life is existing. Somewhere we have gone very wrong. We just missed the truth by a wide margin. But not too late. You can find out any time. It's open to anybody who discovers that what you have to do in order to find the truth within is to go within. If you want to find how consciousness operates, and if you are truly the consciousness covered by these things, go in. And it is such a simple thing when you come to think of it. If you were to pull your attention, withdraw your attention to yourself, not somewhere, not that you have to put your attention on something, that's where we go wrong. When we try to put our attention on something, we go wrong. The secret is to put the attention on the self, on your own self. When you withdraw attention to your own self, gradually you discover what is real and what is unreal. Let me take a simple example. We have been taking this body to our real self. All our life we live like that. What happens when we die? Have you seen people dying? I've seen lots of them. I've been at their bedside while they're dying. And they're talking to me while they're dying. What happens to them? The very body which they thought was their self, when they're dying, something is pulling their attention away from the body. The body doesn't die all at once. It dies in stages. There's some sudden death, it moves quickly. Sometimes there's a slow death. If there's a slow death, you will observe that people die in their hands and feet before they die the rest of the body. The extremities die first. And they can say, where is my foot gone? Can you put my foot on this side? It's already on that side. They are talking as if they don't know where their feet are, where their legs are, where their arms are, where their hands are. It starts like that. Then they forget where the torso is. They're still talking to us. They're still alive, but they're dead halfway. When the consciousness, life force is pulled out, it goes toward the brain. They can still talk. When it goes up here, they can't talk anymore. But you can see their eyes. They're still alive. When they die in the head, brain dead, then they are dead. So death is not simply a process that you just leave the body or go somewhere. Death is a process where your life force, your consciousness, your awareness is pulled out in stages from the extremities of the body and goes upwards toward the head. And when the head dies, the body is no more having any life. If you try to put your attention deliberately and concentrate it behind the eyes at what we might like to call the single eye, the third eye center, right in the behind these two eyes. If we try to put our attention there, what would happen? Identical thing what happens at the time of physical death. You will first not know where your feet and hands have gone. Then you won't know where your legs are gone. Then you won't know the torso. You're still connected with the body. And once you reach up here, you're no more than the body at all. And yet the body is alive. Vital forces are going on. Why? Because you haven't died. You only experimented with the withdrawal of attention, what it does. What a remarkable way to be able to experience death while you are alive. Anybody can experience what will happen in the real physical death while you are alive and test it out right now. Whoever has done it has never been afraid of death after that. Because when you pull all the attention out, you don't find that you are dead, you find you're more alive than before. You find this body was not your body. You have another body. That body, not only when you fully die in this body, even through this experience of withdrawing of attention, you remember you were in that body. You like wake up in a body from where you were sleeping and having a dream in this body, of this body. It's a personal experience. A personal experience of dying while living. If Paul says, I die daily, he doesn't mean physical death. He means that he can have the experience of death every day if he likes. All these great saints, mystics, those mystic adepts who practice this art of withdrawal of attention came to the same conclusions, that the physical body is an experience built around us, is being built by the same process that builds everything else. When the consciousness builds, covers upon itself, the first cover being the cover of the mind, which causes all other things to happen. Mind creates the experience of time and space. Mind creates the experience of objectivity existing outside. Mind creates the experience of thinking and contemplating on all that is there. Mind creates the experience of making sense of things. Mind creates the experience of analyzing and rationalizing and understanding sense perceptions. That mind is the first cover upon ourselves. It's like a body. We call it the causal body because all causes take place there. Everything is caused from there. It then generates a second layer, which makes it more difficult to go and find out who you are, because now you got two layers. The second layer is what picks up the sense perceptions. The sense perceptions that we can examine in a dream, sense perceptions that imagination can provide us, is only a second cover upon us. We call it the astral or sensory system or sensory body. It's like a cover, like a body. And on top of that, the physical body. These three are very big primary covers upon our consciousness. When we die, we move to the next step. If something is going on and we have to be reborn, we come from the next step back to this step. We don't go any further. If you go further, you can have totally different experiences of reincarnation in some other planets or galaxies. You can have experience of being born somewhere which you don't have any idea of now. It's beyond the physical creation. There are different experiences can take place depending on how deeply you have been able to withdraw your attention within. But the same experience can be generated and found out that these three bodies that are covering us all have different lifetimes. This body which has such a little lifetime, when you awake from this, by becoming unaware of it, by withdrawal of attention from this body and becoming unaware of it, when you wake from it, you find that you were already here for a long time. Your memory comes back to what happened a few hundred years ago, 1,000 years ago. You remember it. It's not somebody else telling you what happened. It's your experience that you get that that body had a longer experience than this body. Being locked down ourselves into a smaller world. When you get a physical body, that's when you get a physical world experience around you. This physical world wouldn't exist. You can check it out. This physical world would not exist if you didn't have a physical body. If somebody says, no, it's existing somewhere else, let's find out who could observe it when there was no observer. Do you know, whatever we observe is the only physical world we know? Doesn't matter whether we observe with our eyes or we observe through a telescope or observe through a microscope. It's an observed world. There is no world we know which is not an observed world at all. So there is no physical world except what has been observed by a human being. A human being has created, through observation, a world that is only confined to what you have observed. Tomorrow you find more, the world becomes larger. The world changes as you discover more. Therefore, the other world, sensory world, is different and is only created when you have a sensory body. The causal world is totally different, much vaster, only observed when you don't have the physical body and you don't have the astral or sensory body. These all worlds open up. They don't open up for somebody else to tell you. It's your own personal inner experience. These experiences lie inside us, each one of us. It's not a special gift to anybody to have these experiences. All human beings are equally endowed with this experience inside. All are the children of the same Creator and have the same endowments and the same benefits. We, our human mind and our human bodies, that make distinctions and divide ourselves. The Creator never divided us at all. Ultimately, you can even find what the Creator is. It's all happening inside. The most miraculous thing is that when you go to the highest stage of discovering what consciousness is, what life is, what a soul is, you discover the nature of the soul is different. The very characteristic of a soul, the very experience of a soul is so different from the experience of the mind, senses, and the body. And yet it is there with us because without the soul we can neither have mind, nor senses, nor body. All are overlapping and taking place at the same time now. But when you ascend to an experience within yourself, where you leave the experience of the physical body behind, you have an artificial experience of dying in the body. When you leave the sensory system behind, when you leave the thinking mind behind, what do you experience? You experience those things which were really belonging to your soul all the time. And those are the experience of love. The experience where you can totally identify yourself with another and not think there are two. The experience of forgetting the self and knowing the beloved. That experience of love is inherent, belongs to the soul and neither to the mind, nor to the senses, nor to this body. The experience of beauty belongs to the soul, not to this analytical mind, nor to the sensory system, nor to the physical body. The experience of joy and bliss, being so high, not knowing how, belongs to the soul. These experiences exist when you have shed off all these other covers. And then you discover that even when you were in the physical body, these wonderful experiences were taking place in you because of your soul. But you were mixing them up with other experiences and not being able to understand how a rational mind which thinks and analyzes everything could interpret love. It never can. If you experience love with anybody, even in the physical body right here, and start thinking too deeply about it, you destroy the love. Can I be sure? That's the first question you ask. If you experience love, can I be sure? There's the mind's activity of creating doubt and fear. So you will get trapped into the functions that belong to an outer cover of ours and mess it up with these other smaller experiences of smaller lasting bodies and forget that your everlasting immortal body was having deeper experiences much more relevant to happiness and joy and bliss than any other experience of the physical body or the mind or the senses. True bliss, which can make you high forever, not while you're drunk, not the one which has a hangover, but to be high forever is possible through the experience of your soul, which you all have inside you. What a great opportunity! And we all have this opportunity. The opportunity to go back by withdrawal of attention. The principle, the modus operandi for discovering yourself is simple. Withdraw your attention from what is outside and bring it inside. That's it. If you withdraw your attention from what's outside and take it inside, layer by layer, step by step, you will discover who you are. You are the soul, the spirit. Immortal, never born, never dies, undergoes experiences. Experiences generated by these covers. People ask me, if we had so much bliss just being souls, how could we be stupid enough to come to such a rotten place? How did we lose all our wisdom? And we said, oh, let's go into a bad place with duality and terrible pain and suffering and hospitals full of patients and prisons full of criminals. And what kind of deal did we have to come to this place? Or did the Creator push us down? What kind of Creator is He? We say He loves us. That's not kind of love we wanted. People have these questions. But they forget one thing. If you go to sleep tonight and have a terrible nightmare, and you don't like it at all, and then you wake up, first thought is, thank God it was a dream. Well, no wonder if all the experiences which we are talking of, every layer, is being created by the power of consciousness. That means we are using the power of illusion, the power of projecting, and create something that looks like reality, and from where we can actually withdraw into reality. We won't say, oh, why did we make a bad choice? We say, wow, that was a great roller coaster, but we are back home. You have a different concept altogether about this experience. But we have done a great job in investing reality into this experience because we wanted to have a good adventure. We didn't come into this world for a poor adventure, a really good adventure. A good adventure is that which should be real. At least it should look real, feel real, and we did a good job. We made it real. We did not use the power of illusion to create illusions. We did not create the power of casting shadows to create shadows which we can see. We use the power of illusion to create shadows that move independently of us. We created mirrors in which we could see, and the mirror would not act like we do. Supposing, look at this little example. You stand in front of a mirror. You raise your hand. The person on the other side also raises the hand. You say, wow, you raise your right hand, left hand, he raises the right hand. Well, that's a little difference, but looks the same person. You say, just my reflection. Supposing you raise your hand and the other person smiled and didn't raise. You'll be freaked out. You will say, this is not a mirror. That's real. Such a simple device can create reality. Imagine if the one could become many and the many could act differently, what a great reality we would create. I think we've done a great job. Not only that, we invest reality into all levels of illusion in a way nobody could perfect more. Here in this world, we have created a sense of reality which we observe as real if it can be tested by more than one sense perception. Supposing we didn't have sense perceptions, we only had perception. That we could just see at once everything, hear everything, touch everything at once to the mind. We would have no problem. We would know it's a reflection or not a reflection. But when we are in this world, physical world, I want to know, is this drink in this water in this cup real or not? How do I test it? I can touch it, it's real. I'm using one sense perception to confirm another. I taste it. Good taste, it's real. I tasted, touched it, saw it, it's real. I'm using my sense perceptions themselves, by dividing sense perceptions, I'm confirming reality. What an easy thing to fool ourselves. That we could use just sense perceptions, one against the other, one along with the other, and say it's real. Now look at the same thing. If you go to sleep at night, and I have a dream, in the dream, I also see this cup. And I say, is it real or is it a dream? I touch it, yes, it's real. I drink it, yes, the taste is real. I do the same things as the cup is real. When I wake up, there was no cup. How did that happen? How did I imagine that the cup was real in a dream? When I woke up, there was no cup at all. How did I make reality into a dream? I confused myself by thinking that a confirmation by another sense perception of one leads to reality. It's a confirmation of reality. We can also do another thing. I can have a dream while sleeping and see 10 people. And I come to know it could be a dream. I'm not sure is it a dream or not. So I asked those 10 people, do you think it's a dream? They said, no, it's real. We are all awake. I said, thank God I got confirmation now from 10 people. It's not one person thinking of it. 10 people have just confirmed it's all real, not a dream. And I wake up. 10 people are not even there. I am using confirmation from the same level of experience which I'm trying to test out if it's real or not. What a big mistake. And that mistake we're making every day. Every day we are testing out reality by comparing with the very elements that we are testing if they are real or not. The only way to really test what is real is to wake up and see if there is a higher level of awakening than the one we have. Is it possible that we are dreaming this dream and when we awake it will be different? Is it possible we'll find ourselves in a bed in some palace somewhere else and we suddenly think we are poor and suffering here? And we wake up and we find we are very happy millionaires there. And why did we have a dream like this? Why, if we are millionaires in another level and we go to sleep and we are poor and we are in a terrible state of poverty and sickness and in a real, we are healthy and strong, why did we dream of being poor and sick and all that? Because when we wake up, thank God I am rich, thank God I am healthy, thank God I never knew what it means to be healthy and millionaire. But thank God it was only a dream in which I saw that. It wasn't real. What an experience. So the experience of duality, the created by pairs of opposites, by which you can have an opposite world of duality here, is to make your appreciation of your true form even more appreciative. You can really understand who you are and where you belong if you're able to wake up to a next level, and so on. It's great to be able to have that experience that this world was generated as an experience. Well, if I take this cup and drink this in a dream, the cup is not real, but the drink is real. Don't forget that. I can't get up and say, I had no dream. I had a dream. In the dream, my experience of drinking was real. The cup was not real. Same thing here. My experience of drinking is real, and therefore I am assuming the cup has to be real. The experience is real. It's been generated by consciousness. All experiences are real because we're having them. They're generated by consciousness. But we jump to the next conclusion that things that are creating the experience must also be real. And that's the error. Because when we wake up, we find the experience was real, but the things were not. Then there's another thing, even more interesting. I have a dream in which I see a couple of friends of mine. I see Gary there, I see Nereus there, these gentlemen, good friends of mine, and I see them. Then I see some funny looking cartoons there, 20 cartoons sitting with them, and I talk to them, they all look equally real. In the dream, there's no difference between these two gentlemen and the rest of the people I see there. I wake up, I find two were real. The others were not. Why? Because they were existing even in the wakeful state. They were existing even in the wakeful state, and they same appeared in my dream. Although what I saw in the dream was not their real self, it was an image. But when I woke up, I found that they had real counterparts. And therefore I dreamt of them because they were real in a higher state of awakening. And then the others were not, they were created for the dream. Then supposing it's a multiple levels of dreaming. We dream within a dream within a dream. And I wake up again. And then I find some people are still there. Others disappeared because they were made up for the dream. And we keep on waking up. Ultimately, we awaken to the final stage of awakening from where the whole consciousness started the dreaming process. And we find one guy is still there. A guy that we saw at every level of the dream, right in the sixth level of dream. I didn't realize that even the sixth level of dream, one was more real than the others. I could only find that by waking up to the highest level. When we say there's an enlightened person amongst us, the enlightened person who tells us about all these things, who is the enlightened person? Enlightened person is one, when we wake up from a dream, he's still there. When we wake up second time from the dream, he's still there. When we finally wake up, he's still there. So we know he was a link to all experiences that we were having. And we thought he was merely a temporary teacher of ours or a guide over here. We did not realize that he was real at every level, and therefore his presence in the area where we created him in the dream still carried more reality than anybody else. Now, this is a concept where very few people understand there is more real and less real also. That what is more real is what still exists in a higher state of reality and also exists here. Therefore, you find that what we call perfect living masters, who are conscious of all levels at all times, they are sitting with us in the dream states, and yet when we awaken, they are still there. And that's why they are able to guide us to every level. They are not guiding us from any learning that they have had. They are guiding us because while we are dreaming, they are awake and in our dream at the same time. It's like this. If a person is dreaming that he's taking his horses to the stable, to the barn, and he's carrying them, and he's pulling the horses and taking them, and his friend who's sitting next to him on his bed says, "Wake up." He's half awake and he says, "Who will take my horses?" And the friend who's sitting next to him, who's nudging him to wake up, he says, "I'll take care of your horses." And you wake up. Does he ask the friend, "Where are my horses?" No, he knew. The friend spoke to him about taking care of his horses because he entered the dream state of the person who was dreaming. And when you woke up, you find the horses did not exist, but the friend is there who said, "I will take care of your horses." The role of a perfect living master, who we call the one who can be our true guide to the highest level of consciousness, is such a role that he intervenes in our dreams, intervenes at every level of our consciousness. No matter how many times we wake up, he's still there. So how can he be there? It's only possible when you reach the level of ultimate wakefulness where you find there's only a single consciousness, that there's no two, that what looks like so many of us is one. There's only one consciousness that is operating within that consciousness to create the many. It's not been divided. We look divided, but we are not divided. We are participating in the same single consciousness. But you can't see it here because divided through dreams. We made more and more characters in dreams. As you wake up, finally you find there's only one. Once you reach that, not any particular person, anybody who reaches that state, and then is aware of these dreams that have taken place, he will be in all the dreams at the same time. And therefore, such a person can guide us, be friends to us at any level of our own dreaming, own level of consciousness. Such a person we call a perfect living master. They are very, very rare, have always been extremely rare in this world. There have been many teachers who can teach us how to go to different levels of consciousness. But a perfect living master who knows that we are all one and we are going through experiences and takes us through these levels of wakefulness up to the top, where you find there was no difference between the master and yourself. There's no difference between the creator and yourself. That the whole show took place within one single consciousness we call the creator. That such a person is the one who can take us back all the way to our true home. Where can we find such a person? Well, the answer is a very sad one. We can't find him. If we could find such a person, that means we're already enlightened. If we are not enlightened, how can we find an enlightened person? Especially when 1,000 people come up and say, we are perfect living masters. When the world is full of masters and teachers, full of spiritual teachers, one of the great businesses going on today. It's a very profitable business to be a spiritual teacher, because people want to find something. People are dissatisfied. People are unhappy with what is around them. They want to find something better. And therefore, it's a great business. So how can you find such a person? Any person you find, the mind will say, I'm not sure. The mind will apply its own test. And the tests are mental tests. And a perfect living master is no different from us, because he's part of our dream. How can you possibly find? No way. Sorry. But there's one good news, that if you are ready to be found, he can find you. You can't find a perfect living master, but a perfect living master can find you. Why would he find you? Because you are seeking him. Now remember, the only requirement to meet a perfect living master in this world, in this creation, is to seek. That's it. Not run around to find. Seek, he must appear in your life. He must come to you through coincidences, through various means. He knows the means, because he's aware of all the levels of creation at the same time. He knows exactly what it means to create, to be in touch with the seeker. These perfect living masters are not here for themselves, they are here for the seekers. And they come and respond to seekers. And the seeking is the secret to finding not only a master, to finding everything. If you keep on seeking, you will keep on finding. If you seek a little bit and stop there, you will only find that. If you keep on seeking more, you find more. Secret is seeking in your own heart, in your own mind, within yourself. You don't become a seeker all of a sudden. There has to be a series of events in your life that can make one a seeker. Maybe several lifetimes that we have had of different events that have today made us seekers. So what kind of things make us seekers? Sometimes it can be disillusionment with the world. It can be a feeling, this is not my place. I have had enough of it. It's too messy, this place. This couldn't be mine. I think I'm tired of it. All these thoughts come as a prelude to seeking. Then seeking starts. Somebody wrote an email to me that in one of your talks you said that you have to be unhappy and disgruntled and disappointed with the world to be a seeker. He said, that's not true. I am a seeker and I'm very happy. How come I am happy and I'm still a seeker? So I told him there is an exception to every rule. And there's an exception that a person can be curious enough to be a seeker while he's happy. But I can tell you one thing, in a past life, you were disgruntled and became a seeker. Now you're carrying forward the happiness of that work and you're still a seeker because you're seeking more. So the system works in stages, and the secret lies in seeking and finding. When the master finds you, he knows your state more than you know yourself. Don't underestimate that ordinary person who just comes and says, I don't know what's going on, tell me. That's the friendly gesture. Remember, that's the friendly gesture. But wait for the surprises when he can tell you a lot more about yourself than you know, which happens pretty quickly. Wait for the miracles that start happening in your life, inside and outside. But the mind will still question. Mind will have the same doubts. It has with everybody else. The mind will doubt. Can I be sure? Am I certain? No, maybe not. Maybe this. The doubts will be taken care of slowly and slowly by various means. Some of the means may surprise you, and those may be, okay, do something good for you in this life. Okay, fulfill a wish of yours in this life. And by fulfilling a wish, you feel, he's real. Create a simple miracle of a physical nature, of a worldly nature. Wow, this couldn't have happened but for my master. Simple things like you go to a meeting and the parking lot is full. And you say, oh, there's no parking place today, I will be late for the meeting. And one car pulls out, thank you, master. I know you did it. Such simple acts. From the parking lot, I am reminded of a story. Because my stuff is generally very heavy, so I sometimes cut it down with a joke or two. You don't mind that. This is about an Irish guy. Paddy went to a meeting and the parking lot was full. So he was so upset. How will I be in time for the meeting? There's no space for parking. And he prayed to God. Lord, if you find a parking space for me, I'll go to church every Sunday, attend Mass regularly, even give up my Irish whiskey. And shortly after that, one car pulled out. And he went to park and he said, Lord, never mind, I found one. Just a joke. All I'm saying is little things happen in our life and they give us a feeling that there's somebody taking care of us. This feeling that somebody is taking care of us internally and outside develops to a point where we feel we can be carefree. Somebody has taken us. We find that the Father we were praying to, as our Creator, as our God, has come through and is now appearing in our life through form of another human being, who manifests in us and is with us at all times. The greatest beauty of being accepted by a perfect living master is that he places himself inside you at the very time he accepts you. His acceptance is called initiation by a perfect living master. One of the greatest events that can happen in anybody's life. Thereafter, you can never be alone. Of course, it's always good to be able to see where he has placed himself, because he places himself behind the eyes at the third eye center, where you are trying to reach anyway to open the gates for other areas of travel inside. He places himself there. He also places himself outside, but you can't recognize him. Inside is easier to recognize. His advice is, follow my instructions, learn how to withdraw attention, do meditation in these steps. That will help you to withdraw your attention to behind the eyes. I'll meet you there. Thereafter, we'll always travel together to anywhere, this world or another world. You know, this one experience of manifesting your master within and feeling his presence with you changes your life completely, right here and everywhere else, because you're never alone. He's always with you. Loneliness disappears forever. And I know no other way to completely cure loneliness. And I think 99% of us have had experience of loneliness. And here is the easy solution to that. Go within, find a permanent friend of yours. I say a master is a friend first and a teacher afterwards. If he's not a friend, he cannot be a master. He could be a teacher. He could teach us something, but what we need is not the teacher. Books can teach us. So many discourses exist in teachings. Even today, YouTubes can teach us. And lectures on YouTubes can teach us. Teaching is not the main thing. Main thing is to have somebody with us as a friend all the time. And that's the real role of a perfect living master, to manifest himself within us and be with us at all times. And he does that very promptly, simply, just by accepting us. And thereafter, we are never alone. It's always good to do a primary work, just a primary work of reaching the third eye center. Masters compare it with like an airport, that we have to take a long flight. Can you come to the airport? I'll meet you there with the tickets. That's all he's saying. Just come to the airport. For the long flight, I am holding first class tickets for you. And for myself, we'll go together. Master waits for us. After initiation by a perfect living master, he waits for us at the third eye center. Never leaves us. Always operates from within us. Not from outside. From within us. And we travel back to every level of consciousness. Right up to totality of consciousness, single consciousness, which is our true home, where we really belong. The travel is always joint and together. Even when we reach a state of oneness, the state of being master and disciple as one still gives us the same feeling of love and devotion that we experience right here in the physical world. It's an amazing experience. Some people say it's lonely at the top. There's only one at the top. Why should we go there? Some people have said, I understood that there is only one at the top. At least I have some friends here. I have a good time here. I go to the pub and drink and I enjoy myself. There's nothing there but one. I'm not going to go to your true home at all. I don't like it. But the truth is that all the pubs created here, all the experiences created here are generating right there. And they are being generated within that. And you can have the entire experiences while you are there. It's not that one experience is there. There's nothing outside of it. All that you are seeing at any time is all happening right there. And these different levels have been created there. Nothing is happening outside of our true home. It's the experience within the one of the many. The experience of all creation is within the one, not outside of it. It never got broken up in order to create these experiences. A single total consciousness was enough to create all experiences of every level. And that's where you get and have the experience of everything at the same time. Because why at the same time? Because there's no time. Time is a creation itself. What we call time, space in which we place creation, itself is a created thing. So we are talking of a remarkable time, which is zero time. Somebody put a question to me, you always talk of the zero time. What is the zero time? Give a modern word for it. The modern word for zero time is now. Now is a very modern word. When I say now, by the time I said now, it became past. That wasn't now. Before I said it was future. When was it zero? When was it now? Can I say now in now? Cannot. But I can experience it. I just did. I just experienced the word, spoken word called now in a point of meeting point of the past and the future where there was no time at all. Now has no time. Yet I just experienced it. We all are doing it. We are all experiencing time in no time. It's an illusion which has been made so real that we take time to be the only reality. So much so, people talk of the highest stages of consciousness, which is beyond time. And they say, what was there before that? How can there be a before? How can there be an after when there's no time? There was no before and there was no after. When is the creator doing his job? To create. Now. Because there's nothing else to do, no possibility to do anything any other time except now. This is such a big confusing thing because we give credence to time more than anything else. Time is the greatest trap that could ever be created. Time and space are the greatest traps and we do not even know they are created. People in science talk of a big bang that created space and time and everything else that we see. From the big bang it came 14.5 billion years ago. Okay, where did it take place? A natural question for the same scientists. Where did the big bang take place if there was no space? there was no space and no time, how could you say it took place? So they had to modify the whole thinking about Big Bangs. Oh, there must have been many Big Bangs. So one Big Bang must be there to create space and time for the next one to take place. When did it all start? But there can't be a when there was no time. They are themselves confused today because the nature of time is the greatest trap. It's so difficult to understand it because our mind, through which we think and through which we examine everything, through which we analyze everything, takes it for granted. There can be no thought whatsoever, how hard you try, outside of time and space. No thought can take you beyond that. We are talking of a state of consciousness above that. How can we ever express it? How can we ever explain it to anybody? You can neither explain it nor express it. You can experience it. Because you can experience it like you're experiencing now, right now. But you are trapped in the illusion of time and space, so now it's become limited. There it becomes unlimited. And unlimited now, which has been expanded through mind into past, present, and future. It's a very interesting subject, and one day I can deal more extensively with this nature of time, which is the most negative thing that's tied us up down here. If you want to know what has kept us so long here, that we even don't know how to go back home. We don't know our home is inside us. We don't know. We are reversing the whole cause and effect thing. What has caused all this? Where are the culprits who did this? Time will be number one culprit. And space will be the second culprit. You will find out. Both created by our mind. So the mind is the major culprit. If you have any enemy stopping you from going home, it's your own mind and nobody else. There's no outsider stopping you. It's all your own mind. The whole thing is happening in your mind. So that's why I suggest over and over again to my friends, take a short leap of faith and then have no faith after that, have experience. Let little experience build little more faith for more experience. Don't have blind faith in anybody's words, certainly not mine. Don't blindly believe anything I say. Check out every statement I make and test it out. And as you experience it, even if you experience a little bit of it, make that the basis for further faith. But don't say, oh, because he said it, therefore it is there. That's how religions are created. Some enlightened people have made statements and we stuck to the statements, made them our scriptures, and we said, that's it. It's said there. Therefore we believe it. What experience do we have? But that's blind faith. On true spiritual path, there is no scope for blind faith at all. Faith should be alive, like you are alive. You grow, faith should grow. It should be growing like a live thing. And so your faith should be built upon little experience, creating more faith, little more experience, creating more faith, and so on. Step by step, your faith should grow, your experience should grow. They both should grow together. Then you are on a spiritual path. But if you blindly believe everything, it becomes religion. It becomes mass delusion. That everybody, because 1,000 people believe it, therefore I believe it. That person said it, therefore I believe it. How will you get enlightened on that basis? And we listen to these different teachers, these swamis, and there are so many people. My master used to say there are more gurus today in the world than disciples. They spread so much. And they make all kinds of statements. And they create superstitions. These masters come to take us out of superstitions. And these pseudo-masters are creating more superstitions. Oh, you can find God sitting up there. You can go to that pilgrimage. You will find this thing. All kinds of things are going on. I heard a nice Swami giving a talk on one of the Indian channels. He said, follow a guru, but don't lose your common sense. He said, if he says something that looks stupid to you, it's most likely stupid. So don't just be taken in. Then he gave an example. He said, once a disciple came to me of another master. He came to me, he says, Master, your disciples are very, flimsy kind of disciple. They don't have real faith in you. You pretend to be a great guru, but my guru living in Bangalore or some place in India is the real guru. If he told me, jump from this house, I'll jump. Can any of your disciples do this? And he said, I answered to him, I said, if I asked my disciple to jump, they won't jump. They'll say, Guru, you jump first. So don't be taken in by these kind of statements. And he also gave another story. He said there was a guru, a master teaching, giving a discourse to about 30, 40 people under a tent, an open place under a tent. And this one man who was not a disciple was just going to his house, walking by, when he saw something going on, and it started raining. Just to protect himself from the rain, he came under the tent. Not to listen to the discourse, but just to cover himself from the rain. And he by chance eavesdropped and heard what the guru was saying to his disciples. He was telling them, and then I went into the forest, and there was a lion that came towards me. And they all said, yes, master, then what happened? He said, then I faced the lion, and the lion looked into my eyes. And I looked into the eyes of the lion. Then, master, then what happened? Then the lion turned around and walked away. Then, master, what followed? Then I followed the lion. Then, master, what happened? After 100 yards or so, the lion turned around again. Then, master, what happened? Then the lion ate me up. This man, who was not listening to the discourse, who was just covering himself from the rain, he said, master, I am not your follower, but I am a little curious that if the lion ate you up, how are you alive today? He said, what, you think I am alive? You look at me, I am alive? Now you are trying to make a point that we live our lives like dead people, that we are not truly alive. But by giving this kind of an example that the lion ate me up, it confuses people. So therefore, he said, do not lose your own common sense. You have been given some sense, you have been given a filter. Even your mind, in spite of all its doubts, in spite of all the questions it raises, you must pass the test of getting some answers to the point where you have a basis for moving forward. Your mind must cooperate to some extent. That, okay, I am willing to give it a try, at least that much. If the mind is saying, no, don't believe him, you'll never make any progress at all. So therefore, you can't overdo either thing. You cannot overdo the questioning of the mind, nor can you say, I don't want to question anything, I want to blindly believe somebody. Both are extremes. Have a middle path. Path where it makes sense to you, try it. If it works, fine. If a master says, if you have come to me, you must believe, stay here, I won't let you go. That's not a master, that's a cult. It's a cult leader. If you're trapped in something and can't go and examine what you like, it's a cult. Believe me, no perfect living master ever does that. Perfect living masters say, here is something that has worked for me, try it out, it might work for you. If you find something better, take it. They never tie you down. Therefore, these masters, they didn't charge anything. They always do service to people. They have come to give, not to take. There are so many signs of these which will distinguish them from other people. But the point is that if you are going to think too hard and say, I must get all my questions answered. I have a whole book of questions. I must get them answered before I move forward. You can spend your life on it. It reminds me of a story. In India, we have some wells, and they have no walls, no parapet walls around them. So they're flush with the... So sometimes you have to be careful while walking at night. You might fall into a well. An intellectual professor was walking, and he fell into a well. And that well was fortunately not very deep. It was in the water and screaming around, where have I fallen? Why did I fall into this well? I should have been carrying my flashlight with me. Something like this he was talking. A man was walking outside. He saw groaning and moaning of a man in the well. He came, he said, hold on, I'll bring a rope and pull you out. He said, hold on. First tell me, why did I fall into the well? He said, I don't know, I wasn't here. No, second question. How am I sure that when you tell me you'll go to bring a rope, you will really bring me a rope and not leave me here? He said, I'm promising you, I'll bring a rope. No, another question. Supposing you lower the rope and I'm trying to climb it, halfway you drop me, then what will happen? He says, why am I going to bring the rope and take you out? No, another question. He says, look, can't we go to all these questions when you're out of the well? No, I must have all my answers first before I catch the rope. Some of us are like that. We say, we are in the middle of this mess here. All the mess is all around us. And somebody says, come, we'll take you out. No, first answer all my questions. You can be asking questions all your life. That's an extreme. So, follow a middle path. Have the necessary questions answered, which should give you a basic belief to move one step forward. If the one step forward doesn't give any experience, leave it. Try something else. This is not a mandatory thing at all. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity one can get. So I recommend that take a sensible view, a commonsensical view. Common sense is a very important virtue. Unfortunately, it's very uncommon. But that's a different thing. As I always say, there are 8 senses that we employ in life. 5 senses are the common senses of perception, seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, tactile sense, all that. These are 5 senses. And then the 6th sense is supposed to be more important. It makes you rise above the 5 senses. It's called intuition. Say women, they say, has more 6th sense, meaning they have more intuition. They work more intuitively. I was reading an article yesterday which examines several cases of the right brain and the left brain. And the right brain being the reasoning brain and the left brain being the intuitive brain. And they find women's brain, left side, is better developed. So I thought it was just a joke. But now they found scientifically that women's right lobe is better developed than the left lobe. So women have more intuition. So 6th sense is higher. 7th sense is even more important than all the 6. And it's called common sense. It's common sense that enables you to decide, is it worthwhile or not? Is it the grain or the chaff? Which one should I take or not? It lays down priorities for your life. Do you know how important it is to lay down correct priorities? If your priorities are right, your life becomes right. So common sense lays down correct priorities for you. But the best sense of all, the highest of all, is the 8th sense, the sense of humor. The ability to laugh. The ability to laugh at everything. The ability to laugh at the show which is around us. The ability to laugh at life which is around us. Change your life forever. We'll have a break right now. And there are some people who have never had an interview with me. Is there anybody here who has never had an interview with me and who would like to have an interview? Okay. I'll see you shortly after the break. Thank you. Enjoy the break.